Welcome to the Guiding Brands podcast with your host and chief guide, Karen Vick. This is a podcast for service-based small businesses who want to get a handle on their marketing so they can attract and gain new customers. All right. Welcome to another episode of the Guiding Brands podcast, where we offer valuable advice and tips to help small business owners and marketers navigate the marketing world. Today's guest is no stranger to podcasting. In fact, podcasting is one of, if not the primary way she markets herself. She's joining us from way down under in Australia, and I'm so happy to have her on the show today. She is the expert authority coach and an award winning media personality with over 25 years of experience in broadcasting, branding, and business growth. She has guided thought leaders, authors, coaches, and entrepreneurs of all types to position themselves as authorities in their respective fields. And I'm so grateful for her to have reaching out to me, to join us on the podcast. So, you are going to enjoy this episode. Just her energy, her down to earth personality, and all the knowledge you're going to gain from this episode and the series of episodes that we're going to be doing as a result of this one sitting. So get ready with your pen and paper or digital notepad and your coffee or drink, whatever you want in hand. And here we go. So, Christine, welcome, Christine,
Thank you,
to the
Karen.
Guiding
I've been
Brands
looking forward to
podcast.
this. It's like Christmas.
Yes. Yeah, you were trying to reach me for quite some time, and I'm
Yes.
so happy that you did. And the podcast was on hold for a little bit, and here we go. And what better way to start? I'm going to call this the third season, actually. Because of the hiatus that we've been on. So, if you don't mind, I shared a little bit about you. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey to where you are right now as the
Sure.
expert authority coach?
Yes. So I basically get to work with women, mostly women. My clients are mostly women,
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, thought leaders, coaches. I love coaches all over the world. And so it's my honor that I get to look at these amazing women, these gifted, talented women, and work on their brand, work on their websites, their messaging, so that they can come across and reach their target audience, their potential clients, their customers, or their audience if they want to do like a legacy type of work. And I get to do it, like I said, with women all over the world, and it's just the greatest thing. I've been in the media landscape, as you said, for many years. I was in broadcast journalism. I worked for America Online for a while as an entertainment writer, and then Microsoft or MSN, which was
Mm-hmm.
AOL's nemesis, for a while, and then found my way into broadcasting at a radio station in Los Angeles. I loved it. For 20 years, I got to meet the most amazing humans, but I learned along the way what people actually want. And as you know, as coaches and as speakers and authors, we tend to say, well, this is what I do and this is what I'm going to offer people, and they better take it. And why aren't people busting down my door, and how come I don't have lots of clients? Well, sometimes what we do, we live in our silo as entrepreneurs, and we think that we know best and we know what people want. And I actually have had that experience of knowing what people need and want. And so there's the pillar of three, really, and it's health, wealth, and love. Now, not that I can help you in the love department. That's kind of up to you. But when it comes to, look at the industries, look at the health industry, right? Look at the wellness industry, how huge it is. It's because people want to be healthier, right? And happier. Wealth. And wealth can be not just money in the bank, but time, available time that you can spend with your loved ones, that you can go on holiday, or you can just spend that nurturing time with them, right? That's wealth. That's true wealth. So I have found that with my clients, even though they're like, this is what I want to give people,
Mm-hmm.
um, I can look at the work that they've done and I can actually help them get the word out and actually offer something that people really, really want and
Mm-hmm.
need. And I've had that experience with myself for the longest time, Karen. I was, a couple of years ago, podcasting was just, explosive. Everybody and his brother wanted a podcast. So I was just pushing that. That's my service. I can help you create a podcast for your business.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great. But then it started to slow down and I kept trying to put that square peg in the circle. I kept saying, come on now, you guys need to have a podcast. And what I realized is I was trying to push my agenda on
Mm-hmm.
people, especially my clients that are women. I was trying to push something, a very narrow niche, a very narrow amount of people really wanted to do that and could see themselves doing that, right? So then I said, what is it that people, what are that they actually really need? Do they really need a podcast right now? No. What they really need, the larger audience needs help on their branding, on their developing their expert authority, coming across and saying, I am really good at what I do. Here's what I do, and here's how I can help you.
Mm-hmm.
So once I switched that, the game changed.
Awesome.
I've been busier than ever. And that means I help women in business with their branding, with their website, with their social media, with a podcast if they want, but they don't have to do that, just that. But
Mm-hmm.
also podcast guesting as well.
Right.
So it just
Right.
completely changed the game. And we need to do that as entrepreneurs. We need to give our potential customers and clients what they actually need, not what we want to feed them, if that makes
True,
sense.
true, true. And the thought just popped in my head that,
Mm-hmm.
what you're in fact doing is
Mm-hmm.
helping these women, these entrepreneurs show up where their audience is, meet
Yeah,
them where they're at.
right.
Oftentimes, it's like we're shouting to the world, yeah, I have this thing, but that thing may not be translating, to the person that
Right.
actually needs it. It's the way in which you're actually delivering it. And these conversations, I've found, for me anyway, have helped me do just that, to show others, what I'm capable of, and my guests, help them interact with guests, and leverage these tools that are available to them that we discuss. So,
Yeah.
and that brings me to the point of today's episode, and it's this: it's that, you know you talk a lot about guesting, about
Yeah. Mm.
entrepreneurs positioning themselves through the use of podcasting, but not necessarily being a podcaster themselves, which is what you're just saying, and so um, I want to know what can a brand do for brand authority. What do you see, them doing?
Yeah.
They have all these options. There's the blogs and emails and social media and all of this good stuff. But how, what's your take on this?
Well, I think the power of podcasting in general as a phenomenon is just amazing. So I do have some clients that I'm like, look, you're so talented, you're so funny, or you're so intriguing. You need to have a podcast, especially like coaches and speakers. It's a no brainer.
No
You need to
brainer.
have your
Hmm.
own podcast and have it be branded. It's a great marketing tool because it's your show, right? You can talk about
Do
anything you
whatever you
want.
want.
Just don't be too pushy with this. Don't be salesy because people can smell that a mile away. You want to either inspire or educate or inform, but you don't want to push. Okay. And this is about the whole magnetism in attracting clients. You want to magnetize them to you. You don't want to repel them from you. And so there's a way to do that. So I'll always say to those clients that I think are really talented, that can handle doing a podcast, I'll say you need to have your own podcast. But at the same time, I'll say you also need to be a guest on a podcast, and you need to get those podcast shows that are in alignment with who you are and your potential clients, because you're going to be able to reach an audience that you could never ever reach before. And the most important thing is that searchability. SEO, we talk a lot about that in business, SEO. And when you're a guest on a podcast, guess what? Your search engine optimization does go up, because your name, your title, many times your website is going to go out onto that podcasters in their show notes. It's going to go out on blogs, and it's searchable. It might be posted on YouTube as well. So when somebody does a Google search of your name or your the industry that you're in, if they're looking for a particular coach or speaker, you're going to come up, and you're going to come up on these different podcast shows. Plus, it is great training ground for you to, in a very short amount of time, you need to communicate what it is that you do, why you're an expert at it, and how you can help those people, right? How you can help the audience. And so my whole thing is, when I'm blessed enough to be a guest on a podcast show such as yourself, my first thing is not, what am I going to promote about my business and this program? My first thing is, what's the value that I can bring to Karen's audience?
Well,
That's the first thing.
That. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because that's going to keep them listening to Karen's show, right? And it's going to reciprocal. It's just when you have good feedback from an episode, Karen, then that makes you feel good, and then you continue, and it's just this ripple effect, right?
True. I've had feedback. People are telling me, so and so, I heard the podcast, even just the first 5 minutes, and it made a difference. It answered questions for me that I didn't know. I taught me things that I didn't know about marketing. So yeah, fantastic. And the other thing that a podcast does is it's something that's set in stone. Nobody's going to take that thing down, and it's being broadcasted. I've found my podcast on some platforms that I didn't even know existed.
Right.
So, I had some guy reach out to me and tell me he created an app that does analytics, and I'm getting a whole audience, a big audience from the Caribbean. And I'm like, I wonder why, but yeah,
Love it.
So yeah, so it does a lot for you in terms of, putting you out there, whether you know it or not, somebody's going to find you. Yeah.
And if you're and especially if you're a host, you're the captain of the ship, and so you can talk about whatever. I tell the clients that I work with that we're creating a podcast for them. I say, don't just think of this as, I've got to create a show and have episodes. Think of it strategically, because I'm a repurpose queen. I love repurposing content. And so you could think of the episodes of your podcast, think of them as, as chapters in a book. Episode 5 through episode 15 can be 10 chapters in your next book, which could be a bestseller. So when you think strategically, then you might go, I want to interview women that are in branding and marketing. And then I'm going to take those interviews, and each guest that I had is going to be a chapter in my book on the top 50 women in marketing and branding, or whatever. That's a horrible title, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You could create a course. You could create, there's so much, blogs, you name it. All of the clips that you can cut up and use on TikTok and Facebook. It goes on and on. So the moral of the story is, get into podcasting.
And you don't have to be a podcaster. You can be a guest.
Yes,
right?
You could be a guest.
Yeah,
yes.
You can be a guest. You don't have to, because yes, there is a process behind, developing the podcast. And if that intimidates you, some people think that
then be a guest.
Be a guest. So Christine, you have two podcasts currently, right?
Three. I got
Three. Oh
three.
dear. Oh, I missed one of them
Yes.
then. Three. And
Yes.
one of them is actually just a bite size, like a 5 minute thing.
Yeah.
Episode. You just publish 5 minute episodes, correct?
Yes.
So, what this tells me then for the audience to know is that you don't have to have a podcast that, if you're thinking about hosting one, that's, an hour long or 2 hours long, or, and it doesn't have to be video. It could be, you could do just an audio version of the podcast. And could you speak a little bit about that, about the
Yeah.
format?
Yeah. Because when I first talk to some of my clients, when I say, because I can see it, right? I can, I can see, I work intuitively, although I don't market myself as an intuitive, but I work intuitively. And so I'll be speaking to a client of mine and I like, oh my God, it's just, the universe is screaming for you to have a podcast. And I already know what the title, I mean, I'll go, what about this for the title? And they're like, oh my God, that's so great. So, but then they can become overwhelmed. They go, but I don't, I don't want to spend all that time. I have to come up with like all this, content and hours and hours. And I said, no, 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 no. First of all, you don't need to go on and on forever. You don't need to have 1,000 episodes and do it for years and years and years. It can be an encapsulated, like a series, right?
Hmm.
A lot of true crime stuff. It does true crime shows. They don't go on and on
Yeah.
forever,
Yeah.
or the autobiography of Princess Diana. It's like she's born, she gets raised, she meets that dude, all that stuff happens, and then she's killed. Okay, then and that's it.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot after that. Maybe there'll be another
A
podcast that's
sequel.
about the
Hmm.
investigation or something like that. But
Hmm.
really, there's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end. Okay, so you don't have to go on forever and ever. It can be something that's encapsulated. Also, you don't have to have episodes that are hours long or an hour. Joe Rogan might be able to do a 3-hour podcast episode, but not all of us have that kind of audience or money to do that.
Right.
So, what I like about the micro podcasts, and the micro podcasts are basically 5 minutes or less. Now, people go, 5 minutes or less. What? That's ridiculous. Like, and I say, no, you know what? The thing is that we have such a short attention span as human beings. The popularity of like TikTok and Reels is because they're short entertainment pieces
Hmm.
where we can get a lot of information in a short amount of time, or a lot of entertainment enjoyment, right, in a short amount of time. So when you have something that you can talk about, that's almost like steps or tips, things like that. You might be a motivational speaker. You might be somebody who can just connect with your audience with every episode for a couple minutes and just say, "Hey, you know what? You got today. Today is your day. What are you going to do to claim this day as your day?" Those type of things.
Right.
So
Right.
the show that I have that has the micro podcast, it's called the Micro Podcast on Podcasting, and each episode is really just tips like, should I go solo or should I have a co-host?
Hmm.
What kind of microphone should I have? Those are all separate episodes. So
Hmm.
people can check and look at the episodes. They can go, oh yeah, I want to know about lighting, or I want to know about, this, that, or the other. They can actually find it on the show, or they can just sit and listen to the entire, series and get some really cool advice on how to
Yeah.
create a podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. And you'd be amazed at what you can get in a minute.
Yes.
I there's one
Yes.
podcast that I subscribe to called It's Time to Pray, and it's just a minute every day. The
Wow.
guy records like 20, 30 sessions, or episodes, and then they put them out, and it's just 1 minute, and you can get so much in a minute. We've
Yes.
been talking for a few minutes now, and we've gotten so much in already, so we can
Exactly.
stop the show now if we want.
Okay. All
No.
done. Our job is done.
No, but this is great, because I've also been encouraging others that I know of. One person in particular comes to mind. She is an entertainer. She's a professor. She is a human resource specialist. She does all of these different things. She happens to be Jamaican and is what we call an ambassador for our culture. and I've been
Oh, wow.
encouraging her to do a podcast, and she's terrified of it until actually recently. I talked with her, and she's actually thinking about doing it now,
Oh, that's
you
so
know,
good.
and yeah, so I'm going to encourage her to just start off small, because that's what I did when I did this. My first 6 episodes were all just me talking into a microphone, and I tried to keep them under 20 minutes,
Yeah.
and then I evolved into doing interviews, and I much rather this, because the angst, the anxiety that I felt doing this, just talking to myself, was reduced. So yeah, if you like talking to people, it's a good way to actually just have a conversation around something that about, or and just like we're doing right now. So
It's a
yeah.
great way to meet people too that,
Yeah.
that you admire, that you know, if you just emailed somebody and say, "Hey, I think you're really cool. Let's talk." They would be like, "Who are you, a
What?
stalker?" Right? But if you said, if you sent to whoever that you if whoever you're interested in meeting, um I would love to have you be a guest on my podcast to talk about this, that, and the other. I think that my audience would really appreciate your wisdom, your knowledge. Would you like to be on the show? Everybody wants that kind of
Yeah.
invitation,
Yeah.
right? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, they want me to be on the podcast. Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it is a good way to also introduce yourself to people that you admire, and you admire their work. So you can utilize it for that. There's so many things that are benefits about having that podcast, and about guesting as well.
Yeah.
So for those people that are like, it's too scary to have my own podcast, don't worry. We'll slowly bring you into the podcast land, even if it's by being a guest. We'll start off with that. Let's start off with the easy stuff, the training wheels.
True. So Christine, if there is one thing, that you could, share with the audience, as our guest guide, every guest on the Guiding Brands podcast is a guide. I'm the chief guide. You guys are the guides. Um, what would you like to share, just from just our brief conversation so far? What's one thing relating to, just why a podcast would be valuable, that you would want to share?
Well, I think this would even be more valuable for your audience. When it comes to branding, and this needs to be reflective if you have your own podcast or if you're a guest on a podcast, but really the nuts and bolts about your brand, right? As a business owner, is you are the brand. Okay, unless you're doing a product, right?
Right.
Unless you're
Right.
you're representing a stapling, you're a
Right.
stapler company, and this is the coolest stapler in the world. That's the focus, right? But really, if you're the brand, you need to be able to come across and be relatable and be authentic. Authenticity is being rewarded so highly. As we look around our world right now and we look at what's happening,
Yeah.
we see the old facade falling off of the buildings, right? We see the old structures, the power, the money, the fame, Hollywood, music industry, politics. It's all crumbling. It's all because people cannot relate to it, right? Um, this facade that's people have put up about being perfect, about being super wealthy, and all these things. Right now, what is being rewarded is authenticity and relatability. And so if you can nail that down and show people, your audience, your potential customers or clients, that you're just like them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you have all that knowledge and wisdom to share with them, but you've been there. You've experienced that. You understand where they're coming from. That's gold. And I really encourage people to um, also to avoid trying to be perfect, because nobody is perfect. And if you say, I'm not going to do anything until I feel like I'm perfect, you won't achieve anything. You won't try.
Mm-hmm.
And Karen, as parents, we want to encourage our children to try things, to stretch, and not be afraid if they fail. That's how
Mhm.
you learn sometimes, is when you stumble or you mess up or you do a mistake. I
Right.
can't tell you how many times I've learned great lessons by, doing boo-boos. Sometimes I forget to hit record, right? I'll tell my, I'll say, I'll do a big webinar or masterclass, and I'll go, you know what? I didn't hit record, and everybody laughs and they get it. I say, well, it happens.
I agree, because when I started the podcast, I had a family member who was going to assist me with the audio and setup and everything, and just getting my intro together and things like that. And um, for some reason or another, I don't remember the reason, but we weren't able to do that. And so I was left now to figure this thing out on my own, because I set a date and I said, I'm going to start on this date no matter what happens. And yeah, I sink or swim. I got in there, and guess what? And we launched. So
That's your synapses growing.
yeah,
And that's how we become masters.
yeah,
Masters
yeah.
are not just born. We need to learn things. I just had, just before our conversation today, a
Mhm.
client of mine who is a audiobook narrator, but also producer, right? And we're working on getting her business and brand out there. And I told her, I confessed, I said, I've got 5 best-selling books. I've done 2 audio books. The first one was horrific. Like I said, please don't look it up. Please don't listen to it, because
Now the whole world's gonna be looking for
because I was reading the audiobook. I was
Yes.
reading the book into recording and doing all that. And it's a whole gauntlet of things you got to do to create your own audiobook, produce it, and publish it. Oh my gosh. So I did all that work, but I was reading it. So the second one, because I actually listened to it, and I said, who is going to be on a road trip wanting to listen to this crap? I was so bored. I was like, da 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 da, right? And so the second audiobook that I did, I realized I need to perform it. I need to perform it, because I also took a listen. I said, what are the audiobooks that I love? Right. I love Mel Robbins.
Right.
Mel Robbins doesn't read.
Listen.
Right.
Yeah.
I love Cher's autobiography. Now, part of that is being narrated by Cher, but another part is not. It's not Cher; it's another person, but it's done in Cher's voice, tone. So the second one, the Podcastonomics book that I did for the audiobook, I loved, and people loved it too. And it's because the first one I failed at miserably,
robotic. Yeah,
I learned.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I know.
So don't be afraid to fail.
And nobody's gonna come hunt you down because of it.
Right. Right.
Listen, the people that are gonna think about hunting you down or criticizing you, they don't have one. They don't have an audiobook out there.
There's no audiobook police that are gonna come and arrest me for that first one, although they should.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you. Thanks for those tips. So we know, just getting started is really important. That's the first thing. That's the first hurdle to get over. That's all for this episode of the Guiding Brands podcast. I look forward to sharing with you again next week. So please don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Thank you, and bye for now.